Maya stepped out of the sleek black car and took a deep breath. The city's lights reflected in her eyes, and she smiled softly, feeling the familiar pulse of excitement. She had been traveling a lot lately, inspecting her hotels across the country. Today, she was here to visit one of her newest properties, a luxury hotel in the heart of the city. Even though Maya had worked hard to build her empire, she always preferred to travel quietly, without announcing herself. She liked to see how things ran when no one knew who she was. The hotel loomed ahead, tall and impressive, its glass doors shining under the evening lights. Guests and staff were moving around, their faces busy with the usual evening rush. Maya adjusted her scarf and walked in, her presence calm but firm. She was used to attention, but she never sought it. Today, she only wanted to see if everything was as it should be. At the front desk, a young receptionist greeted her politely. "Good evening, ma'am. Welcome to the Grand Royal Hotel. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," Maya replied, handing over her ID card. "Under Maya Johnson." The receptionist typed her name into the system and smiled. "Ah, yes. We have your suite ready. Please allow me to escort you." As they walked through the lobby, Maya noticed the manager standing near the elevators. He was a tall man with a sharp suit and an even sharper expression. He carried himself with confidence, but there was something in the way he looked at the staff that suggested arrogance. He glanced at Maya and frowned slightly. "Good evening, Mr. Harris," the receptionist said politely. "Evening," the manager replied curtly, without looking directly at Maya. He did not smile, nor did he offer any sign of greeting. His eyes lingered on her just long enough to seem dismissive. Maya felt a small chill. She had met many hotel managers before, and she knew the type: proud, often rude, and quick to underestimate anyone who did not openly command attention. Still, she remained calm. There was no reason to react. She had dealt with difficult people before. As they reached the elevator, Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced at it briefly, then slipped it back into her bag. The receptionist pressed the button, and the door slid open smoothly. Inside, Maya could feel the tension in the air. The manager's presence seemed to fill the lobby even from a distance, like a shadow hovering over the staff. She reminded herself that she was here to observe, not to confront. "Your suite is on the 15th floor, the receptionist said, gesturing politely. "I hope you enjoy your stay." "Thank you," Maya said, her voice soft but confident. Before she could step out of the elevator, the manager suddenly approached. He cleared his throat loudly, drawing the attention of nearby staff and a few curious guests. "Excuse me," he said, his tone sharp. "Are you trying to bypass the check-in procedure?" Maya looked at him, surprised. She had followed the proper process. "I have a reservation," she said calmly. "Everything is in order." The manager's expression hardened. "I don't care who you are. We have rules here. You can't just walk in expecting special treatment." Maya's calm smile did not falter. She had faced far worse situations in her life. But she sensed the crowd around them beginning to notice the tension. Guests were whispering, glancing back and forth, sensing a drama unfolding. "I am following the rules," Maya said evenly. "Please allow me to proceed." The manager's pride would not allow him to back down. He stepped closer, pointing at her. "I don't care if you're some important guest or not. You will respect my authority." Maya's eyes narrowed slightly. She had always believed in handling conflict with dignity. She did not need to yell or argue. She had power in her presence alone, but she wanted to see how far this man would push it. "I am happy to respect you," she said softly, "if you treat me with the same respect." The manager's face turned red with anger. His jaw tightened, and for a brief moment, Maya thought he might storm off. Instead, he raised his hand sharply, a gesture of frustration more than anything else. A hush fell over the lobby. Guests paused, their conversations stopping mid-sentence. Staff members froze, unsure whether to intervene. The receptionist stood behind Maya, wide-eyed, not knowing what to do. Maya remained calm, her posture straight, her gaze steady. She did not flinch. Something in the way she held herself made the room feel heavy with anticipation. Everyone could sense the confrontation was about to escalate. Then, in a moment of impulsive anger, the manager slapped her lightly on the shoulder, not enough to cause real harm, but enough to shock everyone. The sound echoed faintly in the lobby, like a drum beat of tension. Gasps filled the room. Guests turned toward them, whispering. Staff stared in disbelief. Maya did not move, did not cry out. She simply looked at the manager with quiet strength, her calmness contrasting sharply with his fury. The receptionist whispered, "Sir, that was inappropriate." The manager blinked, as if surprised by the reaction. He had expected fear, submission, or at least flinching, but not this. Not the complete composure of the woman he had just struck. Maya's lips curved into a small, almost imperceptible smile. Inside, she felt the familiar rush of power, but not the kind that came from wealth or status. This was different. This was the power of control, dignity, and patience. She was ready to show him and everyone else exactly who she was. And in that moment, the lobby felt electric with tension, the calm before a storm that would change everything. The lobby was silent for a moment, the air thick with tension. Guests whispered among themselves, glancing nervously at the woman who had just been slapped. Maya stood tall, her eyes calm, yet sharp with quiet determination. She had faced difficult people before, but this was different. This was a public moment, and the arrogance of the hotel manager was about to be exposed. The manager, Mr. Harris, straightened his suit and took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure. He glanced around, noticing the shocked faces of the guests. Some were holding their phones, no doubt thinking about recording the incident. Others looked at him with a mix of curiosity and judgment. But his pride would not allow him to back down. "You," he began, pointing at Maya with a trembling finger. "You cannot just walk into this hotel and expect to receive special treatment." Maya's gaze did not waver. She took a slow step forward, her voice calm but firm. "I have followed the rules, Mr. Harris. I have a reservation, and I am ready to check in, just like any other guest." The manager's face darkened. He felt his authority slipping in front of everyone, and anger boiled inside him. He raised his voice, trying to assert control over the situation. "I don't care who you are. You will respect the rules of this hotel or you will be asked to leave immediately." Guests murmured, some leaning closer to see what would happen next. Staff members exchanged worried glances. The receptionist, still standing behind Maya, looked helpless. No one had ever seen the manager lose control like this. Maya's calm smile never faded. She could see the fear and confusion in the staff's eyes, and she knew they were torn between their loyalty to the hotel and their understanding of right and wrong. She took another step forward, her presence commanding attention. "Respect is mutual," she said softly. "If you treat me with respect, I will respect you. but if you continue this behavior, the situation will only worsen for everyone involved. The manager's face turned a deeper shade of red. He could feel the eyes of every guest in the lobby on him, judging him silently. The power he thought he held was slipping through his fingers. In a moment of pure frustration, he lost control again. Without thinking, he slapped Maya sharply across the face this time. The sound echoed loudly, bouncing off the high ceilings of the lobby. Gasps filled the room. Some guests held their hands over their mouths, shocked at the audacity. Others whispered in disbelief, unable to comprehend the manager's behavior. Maya's eyes closed for a fraction of a second, but she did not stumble or falter. She raised her hand slowly and touched her cheek, her expression unreadable. Then she looked at the manager, her calmness unwavering. "Is that how you treat every guest, Mr. Harris?" she asked quietly, but her voice carried across the lobby. "Or just the ones you underestimate?" The manager opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. The crowd's silence pressed down on him, and he realized that he had made a terrible mistake. Maya's presence, her calm defiance, and the dignity with which she carried herself left him frozen. He could feel the judgment of the guests burning into him. Maya took a slow step forward, letting her words sink in. "You have embarrassed me in front of your guests and your staff. You have broken the trust that this hotel is supposed to represent. And yet, I have done nothing to retaliate." A young couple standing near the entrance exchanged shocked glances. "Who is she?" the woman whispered. "She doesn't even look angry, but she's powerful somehow." The manager tried to regain control. I am the manager of this hotel," he stammered. "I have the right to enforce the rules." Maya shook her head slightly, still calm, still collected. "Authority does not give one the right to humiliate others. Power without respect is empty." The lobby seemed to grow quieter with every word she spoke. Guests were watching in awe. Staff members were nodding subtly, realizing the truth in her statement. Even the receptionist, who had been trembling, felt a surge of relief. Maya's strength and dignity were undeniable. Then, without raising her voice, Maya took out a small card from her bag and held it up calmly for the manager to see. The crowd leaned in, curious about what she was about to reveal. "I am not just a guest, Mr. Harris," she said softly. "I am the owner of this hotel." A stunned silence fell over the lobby. The manager froze, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Guests' eyes widened. Staff members stepped back, their jaws dropping. The young couple whispered in shock, "The owner? The hotel owner?" Maya continued, her voice steady, carrying authority without anger. "Every corner of this hotel, every policy, every rule, it is under my ownership. And yet, you chose to treat me as if I were beneath you. Do you understand the gravity of your actions?" The manager could only stare, unable to form words. His pride had led him to humiliate someone he did not even recognize, and now the consequences were crystal clear. The entire lobby, from guests to staff, witnessed the moment when arrogance met dignity and dignity won. Maya's calm gaze swept across the crowd, her presence commanding respect. She knew that this incident would change everything. Not just for the manager, but for everyone in the hotel. And as the whispers of shock and awe filled the lobby, Maya remained perfectly composed, ready to decide the fate of the man who had dared to strike her. The lobby was completely silent. Guests stared, their eyes wide, unable to believe what had just happened. Staff members shifted uneasily on their feet, whispering to one another in hushed tones. The young receptionist behind Maya fumbled with the computer, unsure whether to continue her duties or let the moment settle. Maya remained calm, holding her head high. She did not raise her voice, she did not show anger, but the quiet authority she radiated made everyone in the room pay attention. Mr. Harris, the manager, still stood frozen, his face a mixture of shock, fear, and embarrassment. He had expected compliance, fear, maybe even groveling, but not this. Maya took a slow, deliberate step toward the manager. Her heels clicked softly against the polished floor, a sound that seemed to echo in the stunned silence. "Mr. Harris," she said quietly, her voice calm but carrying weight. "You have humiliated me in front of your guests. You have disrespected the very people who work for you. And most of all, you have disrespected yourself." The manager opened his mouth, but no words came out. He swallowed hard, realizing that he had miscalculated everything. His anger had made him blind, and now he was exposed before the people he thought he commanded. Guests whispered, some in shock, others in admiration. "She's incredible," one man said quietly to his wife. "I've never seen anyone handle a situation like that." Maya did not look at the guests. Her gaze was fixed on Mr. Harris, steady and unwavering. "There are rules in this hotel," she continued, "but respect is the foundation of all rules. Without it, no rule holds value. Authority without respect is meaningless." The manager's hands twitched at his sides. He wanted to say something, to defend himself, but the words refused to come. The more he thought, the more he realized that nothing he could say would repair the damage he had caused. A few staff members exchanged glances, whispering nervously. "Did you hear her?" one said softly. "She's the owner, and she's calm." "How is she so calm?" Maya sensed the rising tension in the room and decided to address it. She turned her gaze slightly to the guests, her voice still soft but carrying clarity. "To all our guests, I apologize for the scene you have witnessed. This behavior is unacceptable and does not reflect the values of this hotel. You deserve to feel welcome, safe, and respected at all times." The crowd murmured softly, some nodding, others glancing at the manager with questioning eyes. Mr. Harris swallowed, realizing that the guests were now silently judging him. He felt a flush of shame rising in his chest. Maya stepped closer to the front desk, keeping her eyes on him. "As the owner of this hotel, I will ensure that respect is restored. Actions have consequences, Mr. Harris. And this is one of those moments where consequences must be clear." Some guests took out their phones, whispering to one another, documenting the incident. Others just watched in awe, sensing that they were witnessing a lesson in dignity, authority, and composure. The receptionist, still standing behind Maya, finally found her voice. "Ma'am, what should I do now?" she asked softly. Maya smiled faintly. "Continue your duties as usual. Let professionalism guide you. We will handle this situation properly." Mr. Harris's hands clenched at his sides. His face was pale, his confidence shattered. He wanted to say something, but the words would not come. He looked around at the guests, their eyes now focused on him with silent judgment. The whispers grew louder, not in a mocking way, but with a sense of disbelief at his behavior. Maya's calmness contrasted sharply with his panic. She had turned what could have been a scene of humiliation for herself into a moment of power. The quiet dignity she carried made everyone realize that true authority did not come from force, but from respect, patience, and self-control. Then, she addressed him one last time. You will remain in your position only if you understand the weight of your actions and commit to treating everyone with respect, including guests, staff, and even yourself. Otherwise, you will find that your role here is no longer suitable. The manager's jaw tightened. He could feel the weight of her words pressing down on him. He realized, with a growing sense of fear and shame, that he had crossed a line that could not be ignored. For the first time, he truly understood that respect and humility were more powerful than titles or suits. Guests continued to whisper quietly among themselves, some nodding in approval of Maya's composure. A few even stepped closer to staff, quietly thanking them for their professionalism under such tense circumstances. Maya turned toward the elevators, signaling that the situation had reached its first stage of resolution. She had shown patience, composure, and authority without losing her dignity. She knew that what happened here would be remembered by everyone present. As she walked away, the soft click of her heels echoed, leaving a sense of quiet power in the air. The manager remained frozen, realizing that the lesson had been delivered. He would never forget this moment, and neither would the guests or the staff. Maya's calm presence had transformed what could have been chaos into a powerful reminder of what true leadership and respect meant. And deep inside, she knew that this was only the beginning of the changes she would make, not just in this hotel, but in the way people treated one another everywhere she went. The lobby slowly returned to its normal rhythm, but the memory of the confrontation lingered in the air. Guests whispered about the owner who had stood tall in the face of insult, and staff members glanced at each other, silently acknowledging that respect and dignity were lessons learned the hard way. And Maya, walking calmly toward the elevators, felt a quiet satisfaction. She had shown strength without anger, power without cruelty, and in doing so, had changed the atmosphere of the hotel forever. The lobby remained quiet, the tension hanging like a heavy curtain. Guests continued to whisper among themselves, and staff exchanged uncertain glances. Mr. Harris, the manager, still stood frozen near the front desk. His face was pale, his confidence shattered. He had never imagined that someone could stand so calmly after being treated with such disrespect by him, no less. Maya straightened her posture, her calm gaze sweeping across the room. She had remained composed through the manager's actions, but now it was time to make everything absolutely clear. No one should doubt her authority again. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small leather folder. With deliberate movements, she placed it on the front desk and opened it, revealing documents, hotel keys, and a business card with her name clearly printed, Maya Johnson, owner, Grand Royal Hotel. The crowd leaned in, some stepping closer, others keeping a cautious distance. Staff gasped softly, whispering to one another, while guests' eyes widened in shock. Even the manager's jaw dropped. He had assumed she was just another guest, perhaps someone of influence, but he had no idea she owned the hotel itself. Maya's voice was calm, almost gentle, yet carried a weight that silenced every whisper. "Mr. Harris," she said, her eyes meeting his with steady intensity, "you have humiliated a guest in front of everyone here. You have broken the trust that this hotel is supposed to inspire. And yet, I have remained composed. I have not raised my voice. I have not caused a scene. Do you understand what that means?" The manager swallowed hard. He could feel the weight of her words pressing down on him. I, he began, but no words seemed adequate. "You will understand soon enough," Maya continued. "I am not just a guest. I am the owner of this hotel. Every corner of this building, every staff member, every policy, every rule, it all falls under my responsibility and my authority. And yet, You chose to disrespect me, not knowing who I was." The crowd gasped collectively. Guests murmured in astonishment. Some stepped back, whispering, "She owns the hotel? The one who just stood there? The calm woman." Staff members exchanged stunned looks, realizing that the person they had assumed was just another visitor was the one who made the final decisions in the building. Maya's gaze softened, but her voice remained firm. "Mr. Harris, respect is not given because of position or title. It is given because of character, behavior, and humility. Your actions today failed to show even a fraction of the respect this hotel and its guests deserve." The manager's shoulders slumped. He felt a deep sense of shame creeping in. He had believed that his title and authority made him untouchable, but in this moment, he realized that he had been blind to what true leadership meant. Maya took a slow step closer, her presence commanding attention without any anger. "From this moment onward, you will face the consequences of your actions. You will apologize publicly to every guest present, to every staff member affected, and you will demonstrate the respect required to continue in your position. If you cannot meet the standard, your role as manager will be reviewed and possibly terminated." The manager's mouth opened and closed, but he could not find words. He felt the weight of her judgment, and for the first time, he understood the magnitude of his mistake. He had humiliated not just a guest, but the owner of the hotel itself, and now there was no way to undo it. Guests leaned forward, intrigued and relieved to see justice being served. Staff members whispered encouragement to one another, grateful that someone in authority finally recognized the wrong that had been done. The receptionist, standing nervously behind Maya, gave a small nod, silently thanking her for handling the situation with such grace. Maya turned slightly to address the entire lobby, her voice calm yet clear. "To all guests, I apologize for the scene you witnessed. This behavior is unacceptable and does not reflect the values of this hotel. You deserve to feel welcome, safe, and respected at all times. That is my promise as the owner." The guests murmured softly, some nodding in approval. The young couple near the entrance whispered to each other, "She's incredible, calm, confident, and kind. I've never seen anyone handle a situation like that." Finally, Maya faced Mr. Harris directly once more. "You have two choices," she said quietly. "You can learn from this moment, demonstrate true respect and humility, and continue to serve here with dignity. Or you can refuse, and I will make the necessary changes to ensure this hotel upholds the values I believe in." The manager's hands shook slightly. He understood that this was no longer about authority or pride. This was about character, and he had failed the test. Slowly, he nodded, swallowing his pride. I understand," he said quietly. Maya's expression softened. "Good. I hope you remember this lesson every day you work here. Respect is earned not through titles, but through actions. Never forget that." The guests watched as the tension in the room slowly eased. The manager, pale and shaken, realized that the incident would stay with him forever. He had been taught a lesson in humility by someone he had underestimated completely. Maya closed the leather folder, placing it neatly on the front desk. She turned to the receptionist and said softly, "Please show me to my suite. Everything else can wait. The lesson has been delivered." As she walked toward the elevators, guests whispered among themselves, astonished by the poise and authority she had displayed. Staff members glanced at one another, inspired by her calm leadership. Even the manager stayed frozen for a moment longer, reflecting on the consequences of arrogance and the power of quiet strength. And in that moment, Maya knew that her presence had done more than just reveal her identity. It had reminded everyone in the lobby, guest and staff alike, that true respect and dignity could not be demanded, they had to be earned. After the confrontation in the lobby, the hotel settled into an uneasy quiet. Guests whispered in small groups, some still glancing toward the front desk where Mr. Harris remained frozen, his face pale and expression heavy with guilt. Maya moved calmly, her presence restoring a sense of order without any hint of anger. She knew the situation required careful handling, not just to correct the manager, but to set a standard for everyone in the hotel. She signaled to the receptionist to follow her. "Please, escort me to my suite," Maya said softly. "We will take a few moments before addressing the rest of the staff." As they walked through the polished hallways, Maya reflected on the events that had unfolded. She had built her hotels not just with money or design, but with care, respect, and attention to the people who worked and stayed there. Seeing such arrogance in someone who represented her hotel so poorly was disappointing, but she also knew it was an opportunity to teach a lesson, not just to the manager, but to everyone. When they reached the suite, Maya paused and took a deep breath. She did not want to dwell on anger or frustration, she wanted to use this moment constructively. Turning to the receptionist, she said, "Please gather all department heads in the conference room. I want to address them directly. We need to ensure this does not happen again." Minutes later, staff members gathered, their expressions a mix of curiosity, apprehension, and admiration. They had already heard about the incident in whispers, and now they were about to witness how their leader handled it. Maya entered the room, her presence immediately drawing attention. She did not raise her voice, but her calm confidence commanded respect. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "I know many of you have heard about what happened in the lobby tonight. I want to make something very clear: the actions of one individual do not define this hotel, but they do reveal the values and standards that we must uphold. Respect, professionalism, and humility are not optional here. They are the foundation of everything we do." Staff members nodded quietly. Some glanced at Mr. Harris, who stood at the back, his posture rigid and uncomfortable. He had already realized that this was a turning point not just for him, but for the culture of the hotel he managed. Maya continued, her voice calm but firm. "Mr. Harris made a mistake tonight. His behavior was unacceptable. However, mistakes can be valuable if we learn from them. Moving forward, he will undergo leadership coaching and training to ensure that he fully understands the responsibilities of his role. He will apologize to every guest present tonight and to the staff who witnessed his actions." A hush fell over the room. Staff members exchanged glances, impressed by Maya's measured approach. She was addressing the problem directly, holding the manager accountable, but also providing a path for correction. This was not punishment for the sake of punishment, it was a lesson in responsibility and respect. "Mr. Harris," she said, turning to him with steady eyes, "this is your opportunity to rebuild trust. You will demonstrate respect in every interaction, every decision, every action you take. This is not negotiable." The manager bowed his head slightly. "I understand," he said quietly, the weight of the lesson clear in his voice. Maya then addressed the entire staff. "I want you to know that the strength of this hotel is not in its architecture or its services alone. It is in the people who work here and the respect they show to one another and to our guests. Every one of you has a role in maintaining that culture. Let tonight be a reminder that dignity and professionalism always matter." Some staff members nodded, others smiled softly, grateful for the clarity. The young receptionist who had helped Maya earlier looked relieved. "Thank you, ma'am," she whispered. It's good to see this handled the right way. Maya smiled faintly, then continued. We will also introduce new training programs for all staff, not as a punishment, but as a way to strengthen our skills and understanding. Respect is something we practice, and it must be reflected in every interaction. Our guests deserve that, and so do each of you. The staff listened intently, absorbing her words. Maya had turned a tense and embarrassing situation into a teaching moment. Her calm authority had transformed the manager's humiliation into a lesson for everyone in the hotel. Finally, she concluded, I trust that moving forward, we will create a culture of respect and professionalism that matches the standards of this hotel. Let tonight be the start of a new chapter. Remember, leadership is not about authority, it is about responsibility, humility, and respect. Never forget that. Staff members left the conference room inspired, their respect for Maya growing. Even the manager, still pale and shaken, understood that his actions had consequences, but he also saw a path for redemption. He had been humbled, but he had also been given the chance to learn and grow. Later that evening, Maya returned to her suite and sat by the window, looking out over the city lights. She felt a quiet satisfaction. The incident in the lobby had been unfortunate, but it had also served as a powerful reminder, true leadership was not about power or status. It was about calmness, dignity, and the courage to uphold values even in the face of disrespect. And as she watched the city glow below, Maya knew that the lessons learned tonight would ripple through her hotel. Respect would no longer be optional, it would be the heart of everything the Grand Royale represented. For Maya, the evening ended not with anger, but with quiet resolve. She had taken control, corrected wrongs, and reinforced the values that had built her empire. And in that calm, steady confidence, she knew the hotel and everyone within it would be stronger because of what had happened. The next morning, the hotel felt different. Guests moved through the lobby with calm smiles, staff carried themselves with renewed purpose, and even the manager, Mr. Harris, seemed quieter and more thoughtful. The events of the previous evening had left a mark on everyone. Maya, standing by the large window in her suite, watched the early sunlight reflect off the polished floors of her hotel. She felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. Change was never easy, but it was necessary. Maya spent the morning walking through the hotel, observing quietly. She watched as the front desk staff greeted guests warmly, as bellhops moved with care, and as housekeepers performed their work diligently. The atmosphere was lighter, more respectful, and filled with a sense of professionalism that had been missing before. It was exactly what she had hoped to see. When she reached the lobby, she noticed Mr. Harris standing near the entrance, watching the guests with a careful eye. He did not approach her immediately, but she knew he wanted to speak. Finally, he walked up, his shoulders slightly hunched, his expression serious. "Ma'am," he began, his voice quiet, I wanted to thank you. Not just for what you did yesterday, but for showing me the right way to lead. I realize now that my behavior was wrong, and I want to do better. I want to earn the respect of my staff and the guests, not just demand it." Maya nodded, her calm gaze encouraging him without judgment. "It takes courage to recognize your mistakes, Mr. Harris. Change begins with understanding your errors and taking responsibility. You have been given a second chance. Make the most of it." He nodded again, relief and determination crossing his face. "I will, ma'am. I promise. I will work to make this hotel reflect the values you expect." Satisfied, Maya turned and walked toward the lobby's main seating area. She wanted to observe the staff interacting with the guests, to see if the lessons she had emphasized were taking root. A young bellhop approached her, carrying a luggage trolley. "Good morning, Miss Johnson," he said politely. "It feels different today. The hotel seems calmer. Everyone seems happier." Maya smiled softly. "That is the result of respect and care, not just for the guests, but for one another. When people are treated with dignity, they reflect it back." The bellhop nodded, looking inspired. "I'll do my best to keep it that way, ma'am." As Maya continued her walk, she noticed the guests themselves seemed to sense the change. They were smiling more, greeting staff warmly, and showing genuine appreciation for the service. One couple approached her near the lobby seating area. "Miss Johnson," the woman asked softly, "we wanted to thank you. We witnessed everything yesterday. The way you handled the situation, it was remarkable. Calm, composed, and so dignified. We've never seen anything like it." Maya nodded politely, her smile gentle. "Thank you. It's important to treat everyone with respect. That includes guests, staff, and even those who make mistakes. Learning to handle conflict with dignity changes everything." The couple nodded, inspired by her words, before moving on. Maya felt a warmth in her heart. Moments like this reminded her why she had built her hotels the way she had. Leadership was not about power, it was about influence, respect, and the ability to inspire others to be better. Later, Maya returned to the manager's office. Mr. Harris was already there, reviewing staff schedules with a focused expression. He looked up when she entered, his eyes showing both nervousness and determination. "Good morning, ma'am," he said softly. "I've started implementing some of the changes you suggested. I've apologized to the staff and the guests who witnessed the incident. I've also scheduled training sessions focused on leadership and respect." Maya nodded approvingly. "That is excellent, Mr. Harris. True leadership is not about titles, but about actions. It is reflected in the culture you create for your team." He nodded, clearly taking her words to heart. "I understand now. I will not take this responsibility lightly again." Maya paused, looking around the office. "Remember, it's not just about avoiding mistakes. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels valued, respected, and heard. That is the standard I expect from this hotel and its leadership team." The manager's face reflected understanding, humility, and a genuine commitment to change. Maya left the office with a sense of hope. She knew the road ahead would not be perfect, but she had set the tone. The incident, though difficult, had become a turning point, a lesson for everyone about dignity, respect, and responsibility. As she walked back through the hotel, Maya noticed the small gestures of respect among the staff, a bellhop holding the door for a guest, a receptionist speaking kindly and patiently, a housekeeper smiling as she passed by. These small actions, taken together, were signs that change was happening. The culture she valued was starting to take root. By the end of the day, Maya returned to her suite once more. She looked out over the city skyline, reflecting on the lessons learned not just by the manager, but by herself as well. Patience, dignity, and calm strength were the greatest tools she had. They had turned a moment of humiliation into a lesson that would resonate throughout her hotel for years to come. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm light across the city, Maya felt a quiet satisfaction. She had faced conflict with composure, taught a lesson with kindness, and inspired change with her example. In doing so, she had reminded everyone, staff, guests, and even the manager that respect and dignity are the true measures of leadership. The Grand Royal Hotel had never felt so alive. The halls buzzed with a quiet energy, a mix of professionalism, respect, and genuine care. Guests moved through the lobby with relaxed smiles, staff interacted warmly with them and with each other, and the manager, Mr. Harris, walked with a careful, thoughtful presence. The events of the previous nights had transformed the hotel and everyone in it. Maya stood in the center of the lobby, observing quietly. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The confrontation, the humiliation, the lessons they had all led to this moment. The hotel no longer reflected arrogance or carelessness. It reflected dignity, respect, and a culture that valued every individual, regardless of position. She noticed the staff exchanging nods of acknowledgement with guests. A bellhop assisted an elderly woman with her luggage, smiling patiently. The receptionist greeted a group of visitors with warmth and attentiveness. Even Mr. Harris moved with purpose, speaking gently and encouragingly to his team. Maya felt a quiet pride in seeing these small yet significant changes. A guest approached her, a middle-aged man with a friendly expression. "Miss Johnson," he said, "I wanted to say thank you. The hotel feels different now. There's a calm, respectful energy that's rare to find. You've created something special here." Maya smiled softly. "Thank you. It's not just about the building or the services, it's about the people. When respect is present, it shows in everything we do. That's the foundation of a good experience for everyone." The guest nodded, impressed. "It certainly shows. I've never seen a hotel operate with this level of care and dignity." As he walked away, Maya turned her attention to Mr. Harris. He approached her cautiously, his hands folded in front of him, a mixture of humility and determination on his face. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I wanted to thank you for your guidance. I understand now what it means to lead with respect and patience. I've apologized to all the guests and staff involved, and I'm committed to maintaining the culture you expect here." Maya nodded, her calm expression encouraging him. "I can see your effort, Mr. Harris. Leadership is not about authority or titles. It is about responsibility, humility, and the ability to inspire others. Your actions now will define the future of this hotel more than anything you say." He lowered his head slightly, absorbing her words. "I will remember this, ma'am. I will lead differently from now on." Satisfied, Maya walked toward the elevators. She paused, taking a deep breath, reflecting on everything that had happened. The incident in the lobby had been difficult, but it had also been a turning point, a lesson not just for Mr. Harris, but for every staff member and guest who had witnessed it. She had faced disrespect with calmness, shown strength without anger, and inspired change through dignity. In the weeks that followed, the hotel continued to transform. Training programs were implemented, not as punishment, but as guidance. Staff learned to handle challenges with patience and professionalism. Guests began to notice the difference, praising the hotel not just for its luxury, but for its atmosphere of respect and care. One evening, Maya stood in the lobby, watching a young staff member help a guest who had accidentally dropped a bag. The employee handled the situation with grace and politeness, offering reassurance and assistance without hesitation. Maya felt a quiet satisfaction. The lesson had taken root. Respect and dignity were no longer abstract ideals, they were visible in every action, every word, and every interaction. Mr. Harris approached her, a small smile on his face. "Miss Johnson, the team has adapted remarkably. The staff are more confident, more professional, and the guests notice the difference. I've never seen the hotel operate this smoothly before. Maya smiled back, feeling a sense of completion. That is the result of collective effort, Mr. Harris. Leadership alone cannot create culture, it must be reflected in every individual. You have contributed to that change, and so has every member of this team. The manager nodded, understanding the depth of her words. He had learned humility, responsibility, and the value of calm leadership. He had seen the power of dignity and respect firsthand, and he was committed to keeping the hotel on this path. As Maya walked toward the grand staircase, she paused and looked around the lobby one last time. The atmosphere was calm, respectful, and filled with warmth. Guests smiled, staff moved with purpose, and the hotel had become a place where everyone felt valued. The incident that had once threatened to bring chaos had now become a catalyst for growth, teaching lessons that would resonate for years to come. Maya felt a quiet sense of triumph, not in punishment or confrontation, but in the change she had inspired. True leadership, she knew, was not about asserting power, it was about creating an environment where respect, dignity, and humility thrived. And in that moment, looking at the hotel she had built and the people who now reflected her values, she knew the Grand Royal Hotel was more than just a building. It was a symbol of what could happen when strength met patience, and authority met respect. As evening settled over the city, the lights of the hotel glimmered warmly, a reflection of the calm, dignified energy within. Maya stood tall, knowing that she had not only restored respect but had also built a lasting legacy. The hotel, its staff, and its guests had all been transformed, and in that transformation, Maya found the quiet satisfaction that comes from true leadership. The Grand Royal Hotel would never forget the lesson, nor would those who experienced it. And Maya, walking through the lobby with calm assurance, knew that the changes she had set in motion would endure for many years to come.